The meeting between US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping is a step towards the right direction. But Singapore's Prime Minister Loong cautions that there's still a long way to go. Mr. Lee was speaking during a wrap-up interview on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia. And Brandon Tanoto tells us more.
Now, Singapore Prime Minister Hsien says the meeting between Xi and Biden shows the intention on both sides to stabilize relations and avoid a conflict, as well as work together to resolve the difficult problems between them.
So they're renewing cooperation on things like climate change. They are going to follow up with high-level contacts and discussions. Antony Blinken is going to China in the first quarter of next year. So they are starting to deal with the problems. But of course, the problems themselves are very difficult ones, and it will take some time to resolve, and I think it will be tough. So I think it's a positive outcome, but it's far from the end of the issue.
Now, Mr. Lee also touched on G20's strong condemnation against Russian aggression against Ukraine.
And that view that Russia is in the wrong has not changed. And if we had not said those statements, or if we had not been able to put those statements into the communique, I think it would have been a weakening of our moral case and a weakening of the pressure which is necessary to be brought to bear on a country which has transgressed against international norms and undermined the UN Charter.
To this end, Mr. Lee says Singaporeans need to be psychologically prepared and know that things can go wrong amid geopolitical tensions around the world. However, he says the country must understand that by staying united and working together, the nation can overcome these risks.
As far as Singaporeans are concerned, we should know this is a troubled world. We watch the developments day to day. They can affect us. What happens in Ukraine is already affecting us in terms of inflation, the cost of energy, the cost of food, and the preoccupation with security issues. And if there is a conflict in our part of the world or problems between US and China, that will most definitely affect us.
Now, Mr. Lee explains that the impact on Singapore could be instability in the region as well as considerable economic impacts on investment and trade flows. Brandon Tanoto, CNA, Bali, Indonesia.
Well, PM Lee also called on world leaders to develop consistent international regulation for digital assets. Speaking at the G20 summit in Bali, Mr. Lee explained that as digital innovations become more interconnected with financial markets, they can create potential risks to financial stability. And he suggests the G20 work with relevant standard-setting bodies to develop international regulations to address these risks. Mr. Lee suggests that a common platform of cross-border rules and frameworks need to be improved for ease of doing business. He cites the digital economy agreements with Australia and the UK, adding that Singapore hopes to expand this network. Mr. Lee says digital innovations can also be utilised to boost trade, enhance financial inclusion and improve the delivery of services.
Singapore and South Africa have reaffirmed their close ties as leaders of both countries met on the sidelines of the G20 summit. PM Lee says that he discussed regional and global developments with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. He adds that the relationship between both economies is an important one that has continued to grow even during the pandemic. PM Lee adds that Singapore looks forward to working closely with South Africa to further strengthen these ties. At the summit, PM Lee also met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Both leaders reaffirmed strong ties and discussed ways to expand cooperation in new areas such as digitalization and energy security. Mr. Lee also met with French President Emmanuel Macron, where they discussed the long-standing relations between France and Singapore and exchanged views on global and regional situations.